Kia ora and welcome, and good to talk to you this morning, this afternoon now, actually, Amelia. And I know you're incredibly busy with a big day job at Beca, which is one of those, large corporates, and well, so we'll call it a corporate, but it is a large organization. As well as, I've read your CV, you're involved in a lot more around the country as well. So why don't we start by just introducing yourself a little and what you're doing at Beca at the moment and some of the things you're involved with.
Yeah, well, tēnā koe, Craig, and thank you very much for having me. Ko Amelia Linzey tōku ingoa. So my name's Amelia Linzey. I'm the Advisory Group Director in Beca, and what that means is I run the 620 or so of the people in our team who are involved in helping clients solve project problems that probably aren't the engineering side of solving those problems. So we have planners, urban designers, landscape architects, project strategy and delivery people, cost managers, management consulting. Largely in New Zealand, smaller part of our businesses, smaller part of my advisory businesses in Australia, smaller part of Beca is in Australia as well. So on both sides. I also sit on the Beca Group board for our board overall, and have a couple of other board roles, mainly in project alliances, so things that we're delivering with our clients in the community in New Zealand with Waka Kotahi and Auckland Transport, and with the Infrastructure Sustainability Council in Australia. So something I'm pretty passionate about in terms of how we, particularly the engineering and delivery market, but we as all industry, focusing and turning our mind to how we measure and drive ourselves to deliver in more sustainable ways. So yeah, that's a very quick overview of me. I live in Pukekohe in Auckland. I have 3 teenage children, one at varsity, one just finished high school. We had the senior prize giving for him last night, and one who's just starting high school. So.
Oh gosh, okay, nice spread.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, we've talked about this before, just before we come on here, but you've been at Beca for quite a while now. We won't say how many years. How has the organisation changed over that time since you started?
Yeah, well, look, it did require me. This question requires me to sort of think back something like quarter of a century. So it does. It's a lot, and it's huge in terms of how we do our business, how we as professionals work. So when I first started, we did have email. I post-date email, but it wasn't a personalized thing, and it was just moving into, you didn't email clients. Beca, you could get an email in at Beca, you could get email out. You could package a report up on Friday and phone your client, something we don't do anymore, and tell them that it was in the mail, and that was considered a legitimate form of delivery, and then go away on the weekend and know you were going to get a break. We were very, Beca itself, we were significantly smaller, located in fewer offices and doing different kinds of work, particularly in the advisory space. Our team was part of the transport and infrastructure team, which is obviously still a really important part of Beca, but those sort of services, those non-engineering services, were a much smaller component of our team. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a business which still is our diversity has improved. We're still a long way to go on that journey. That's the way I'd put it. But when I look back in that period, that was certainly different. Though there were some really great things about it. Like I remember when I started, and the chair of the board invited all the new starters for a roundtable discussion with him about what they were hoping to do. So being a smaller business and a more intimate one, still an employee-owned business. So some of those values stay. Talking to your people, a business that knew its people were critical for its success. We do it differently now, but that's something that really resonated with me in my first week at Beca, was being being approached by the CEO and the chair of the board and asked, well, what do you think about what we should be doing as a business, and why are you here, and what is it you want to contribute? Kind of conversations, which I think things we've tried to hold on to. So perhaps a little bit of a what's still the same answer there as well.
Cool. Yeah. Look, I mean, many of us will see Beca as an engineering company. We see your brand when we're driving down the Southern Motorway. But it's much more than that, isn't it? I mean, I was talking to someone on your team this morning about digital twins, health and safety, VR training, etc. We're going to share that with people next year. But what excites you every day to get up and go to work at Beca?
Oh, look, the things that excite me are about, and I touched on this a little bit with the sustainability thing. We are great at helping our clients solve problems in the natural and built world that are reflected in legacy assets that we deliver. So whether that's the Auckland Harbour Bridge, whether it's the Auckland War Memorial Museum, whether it's the desalination plants in Australia that we've worked on, we have a fundamental contribution to the societies and the communities that we work with and deliver for with clients. And the thing that gets me up in the morning is how we can reflect that responsibility in constantly striving to improve how we do it, with how we respond to Te Ao Māori here in New Zealand and Aotearoa, how we respond to Indigenous communities in Australia, and how we work through those processes and start to think about what that means for how we deliver projects, how we help our clients solve their problems in a way that honours and respects and fundamentally founds itself on some of those issues. And then, of course, sustainability, so how we do it in a way that decarbonises our economy and provides for the better social and environmental outcomes. Biodiversity, I think, will be next, and social equity will be is increasingly important as well. So, infrastructure is all about what you found a society on. So we are still, although not necessarily just doing the engineering side of that, we're still founded on how we can make sure that those parts of our world are delivering all the outcomes that we as a society want for them, socially, environmentally, economically, and culturally. And that, to me, is the really exciting bit about what I can bring at Beca, what I can champion, what advisory can help Beca do, and what Beca's own engineers and designers are also passionate about. So I think it's a great synergy for us.
We'll come back to that sustainability one, but I want to talk about diversity and inclusivity. I mean, engineering and technology both have that problem of not enough diversity. I mean, I was at this cloud and data center convention yesterday, and it was heavily people that look like me. In fact, I think on the panel, we had no control over the speakers, but I think we had two women on the front on the speaker panel all day, which is just not good enough, really. But no disrespect to the organisers of the commission of the event, but it was just indicative. I mean, I chaired a panel on skills, and we talked about Māori and Pacifica. But how can we do better to encourage women, Māori, Pacifica to become involved in the industries that we're engaging with?
So, look, I totally agree with you. We need to do more. We're in a dire situation. As I said, if we want infrastructure, if we want transformation of place, and if you want digital to reflect the communities that it's helping and serving and delivering outcomes for, we have to make sure that the people doing that work, doing the design, are reflective of the communities that we're serving. Otherwise we risk being paternalistic, we risk being patronizing, or we just risk, even with all the best intent of the world, just guessing and getting it wrong, because we're trying to do things for people that we need to do things with people. And so I'm a massive advocate of that. We need to think about, I think there's a couple of things. There's a lot of really physical things we can do in terms of getting involved in education programs and getting involved early in school programs about just showing kids and communities that kids in the community that what we do isn't the domain always of what their presupposed assumptions. So we need to show them people who we need to sell those success stories and show them those opportunities and show them how the contribution that they might make might enable us to deliver things differently. And I say it is getting involved in schools and getting involved in university programs and getting involved in those opportunities. I think from our side, it's about actually rethinking some of our, challenging ourselves with our biases and rethinking what we're looking for. If we mean we want diversity, that means we need to be open to being diverse about what a role might need, who might be the right person for that role at the right time, and being a little bit more assertive, I think, with some of our targets and deliveries. So not just hoping that will drive and we have gender targets here at Beca. What we've been looking at is, well, we're going to need to drive some of that as a cohort by cohort target as well, because otherwise we do well at our graduate level and we do poorly at our senior levels, and we perpetuate that instead of taking some overt action to actually to do it differently. I think the other observation I would make is we have some sections in our business where we have traditionally very highly male dominated professions, and a woman leader in those roles will change the nature. We have the evidence that it will change the nature of who you recruit, how you recruit, and how people get promoted. And that isn't to say that people are actively discriminating. It's about people seeing the opportunities, I think, and if they can see someone who looks a bit more like them in a leadership role in their profession, in their part of the business, not just the one or two token people in other parts of the business, that makes a huge difference as well. And we know that factually now, and we just have to be a bit braver about, well, what does that mean in terms of how overt we're going to be about making it happen.
That's I think you're probably the third person that I've heard this week talk about that cohort idea. That it's all very well having an overall target if by diversity and inclusion you're not well represented across the board. You've dumped, no, I shouldn't say dumped, but you've got all of those the good numbers are in groups where you don't have role models, etc.
I look at it like the reverse trickle-down theory. I think we thought that it was going to work that way, that if we could just fix the problem at the graduate cohort, it would gradually work through our organisation and we'd see the change. But we don't, because at every step, people in our organisation they're people and they're making choices, and they're making choices about what their career looks like on the basis of what they can see ahead. And if it doesn't look like it includes them, then it's a natural that's a barrier in and of itself. We can be, so until we are brave, and until those different leaders are brave to take some of those roles, it does become a really difficult challenge. So it's being quite overt about it when we think we need to take that step, in my view.
Great comments. Thanks very much. Well, let's go back to sustainability, because I know it's a passion. I was at Beca last week for an event around circular economy, which was it was fascinating. And we've got our Future of Work conferences coming up this month with all across our venues, and sustainability is on every agenda. That demographic has asked for that conversation. It's a big word and a big concept and something we all need to be thinking about. But what role do you see technology playing in meeting what needs to be done?
So, look, for me, there's a couple of things, and I'll try and be tangible about this, because as you say, it's such a big topic, you get very skyscrapery very quickly, or I do. Maybe it's just a risk, but to me, the big thing about sustainability is it's about integration and collaboration. So as compared to how we used to look at problems and compartmentalize them and break them down into a little bit. So if you're looking at, a water system in Auckland, engineering example, we would break it up into this many projects, and every project would worry about how it was delivering, and we would lose the sum of the parts. in terms of how it was delivering. Sustainability is about keeping line of sight to the sum of the parts, because every decision we make will have a carbon cost here, but a carbon benefit there. And how do we make those balances? I don't like the word trade-off, because but how do we make those informed balances about what the right solution is? When do we invest in a new piece of infrastructure? Because long term it's going to enable us to live in a decarbonised economy, but it will require a carbon investment. A rail project is a good example for that, So and then you add biodiversity on it, and you add social equity on it, and all of those things that are sustainability. So getting to your question about digital, it's absolutely, and technology, it's absolutely imperative as a tool to help us think about that complexity and the interrelationship gaps. And I think it's a massively valuable way. You were mentioning, Beca, with the digital twin and the ability that we think that will have for us to test future scenarios, to explore as our data processing as our AI sort of technology gets better, it will enable us to think about how those scenarios might play out to that true interconnected world. And I think those are the sort of tools that we really need now to crack and to support us in trying to make more sustainable solutions, because our traditional way of solving problems was to reduce them down into a single box and then discount the externalities. And sustainability requires us to do the opposite of that. And I think those sort of tools are going to be imperative to helping us do that. It also just helps us keep up as well. I mean, the scale of the problem and the scale of the challenges that we have, energy transformation, moving to electric cars and electric fleets and public transport, and having smart technology that could enable us to switch from my car, I know where I've parked it, to a shared car, and I know that I've got the technology on my phone that can tell me how quickly I can get to one. Really simple things like that. They are going to be, hugely valuable tools that will move us from being such a carbon intensive society. That's probably, is that enough of a rant? It's one I could actually use the entire time slot for, because I do think that we need to be sort of wedded at the hip. I was listening to the climate conference, the climate change conference with EDS and Sustainable Business Council that they presented last month. And one of the opening speeches was talking about how we need to start thinking about decisions for sustainability on a risk and probability basis, because of the uncertainty that we've got ahead of us. We need to be looking into that future and making some of those decisions. Again, I think technology is a hugely valuable tool for helping us to do that, because we've created a world where, as humans, we know we've generated impacts well beyond what we expected, and we are now, as an Anthropocene age, we are now defining the physical parameters of the world we live in. We need tools to help us understand that, because it's beyond the simple brain of one bear to work out what sort of impacts and consequences that some of those decisions have been having, and we need to reverse that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Hey, let's go up a few more floors in your skyscraper like that, and just talk about Aotearoa, and perhaps a little bit broader. I mean, COVID-19 accelerated all sorts of things, including digital transformation. Do you think we're going to be able to maintain that, or do you think that impact's been a bit patchy?
I think, maintain it. I think certainly for us here at Beca, there were great things that we got from it. There's been a backlash, and I think there should have been a backlash, because it was imposed on us. None of us wanted it, and it was way more. And I don't mean I'm in no way making a government statement there. I'm just meaning it was a crisis that we needed to respond to, and because it happened to us, it required us to change. it's a great example. Again, I liken it with the sustainability one, where it's so hard to get people to change in a problem that is both wicked and long term.
Yeah, yeah.
Where this was immediate and required. So we should, I hate the word should, but we should try and hold on to that sense of urgency that really drove us to do some quite remarkable things really quickly. I think the challenge is, as we all want to get back to normal, and we all want to balance what we've learned and what opportunities that created, and take the good bits of that and what we had before in normal, how we find that right balance, I think, is the thing that we need to work on. From a technology perspective, it's been fantastic. It's driven a lot of things, but it probably hasn't driven it didn't drive the sort of culture change that we need to embrace to allow us to innovate, because it pushed us to a needs must environment. So I think it's getting that, holding on to those things, but getting the innovation and growth mindset out of what we do with that. And that just a bit of reflection on what was great and what was good and what we want to hold on to would be a way to help us do that.
And looking a little bit more forward, I mean, what are some of the big ideas that you think, in the digital space we should focus on if we want to be one of those digital leading nations? I suppose they're going to be sustainability linked for you, but yeah.
They certainly are. And look, I touched on the digital twin. Look, and my background as a planner does make me think about things as in a spatial way, but I do think, like FPOS, like we did, back in the day, we're small enough still that we should be able to exemplify some of the systems. We should be able to break them down and apply them in New Zealand as a fixed geography. We have the resources, and I think spatial twins, spatial scenario and modeling testing for future environments, and particularly getting to that as we start working through things like the adaptation plan and the climate change plan, and we know what we need to get to in terms of our global heating targets, what we can live with, and we're starting to understand and get through the adaptation plan. What does that look like in terms of what's the mix of vehicle fleet, public transport use and active mode that we need? So we know we want to reduce private car use and accentuate those others. And we know what that means in terms of what we need for energy, electricity and renewable energy generation, as opposed to the changes and the transmission that we need. And I think spatial models, spatial twins and scenarios would, as an asset of how could we look to putting some of those things in on the ground and working out what the intended and unintended consequences of them might be, and how we can get the system to work together. Because it's often the little gaps. It's not how much energy we need to generate, it's how we need to transmit it, and where are we going to put that transmission to get to a centre. It's understanding those problems. And again, I think the digital and technology spaces provide huge opportunities for us to do some of those changes and to implement some of those changes.
Cool. Hey, look, coming to an end here, just running out of time, but just coming back to you as an individual, I mean, what keeps you going with all the things that you're involved in? What's driving you to keep going?
I think purpose drives me to keep going. So as long as I have the values and the changes that I want to see in the world in my mind individually, and then feel like I am doing it's never, I'm not sure it's never, for me it's not a linear path of, well, I can see that's where I want to contribute to this, and then I work through what I'm doing today helping me get to that path, do that check-in, and then I feel highly energized and highly motivated to be involved in things. You find you can take on more, and you can solve more when you're energized like that. It's when you feel that you've got diversions from that, or you might have got off point, that you find yourself getting demotivated, and it's a good way for me to assess that degree of alignment to purpose. It's the simple answer.
Yeah, and that's a great answer, because it doesn't matter where you are in your career or in your life journey. Purpose is the thing, same, you look at it, and that's what gets you up in the morning, and that's what keeps you going. And it's just applicable at my, I'll say my advanced age. I wouldn't say advanced, but at my age as it is at any age. Yeah. So look, it's been wonderful to chat with you and go through these things. I'm sure we'll be talking again next year, as I think the sustainability and tech issue, the diversity and inclusion issue is going to come through really strongly next year. But is there any last comments or thoughts you'd just like to share before we finish up?
No, kia ora, Craig. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to have a chat. And there's probably nothing else from me. So thank you.
Well, kia ora, to you, Amelia, as well. And thanks to everybody that's going to hear this, listen to this, watch it again. And it's been awesome to have a chat on this Techbytes session for November 2022. November.
Yeah, I know. It's rushed by, hasn't it?
It
I saw Christmas decorations in the shop the other day. I was going, oh, no.
Oh, no.
We can get that happen. Cool.
Yeah, Matiwa.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. See ya.